Okay, we're about to show you a video. This is kind of a montage of some of the means that we've been doing in our Unite Against Rape campaign. Pat's going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, so I will, without further ado, he's going to hit play on the video, and then following that, you will be hearing from our Executive Vice President of Operations, Patricia. to thank Will Carino immensely for helping us with our audio visual today. Live the audio, absolutely everything has been an angel to us. And I would like to now introduce Patricia Gill, our Vice President of Operations for Unite Women. She's going to talk about our Unite Against Rape campaign.
First, I would like to thank our Vice President of Creative Development and Social Media, Sarah Murrell, and the entire graphics team for their work on this campaign, and specifically for this video, Jessica Gallalungo. Anger is often the catalyst for us to do things. It's anger that compelled Karen to start Unite Against the War on Women last year. Again, it is anger that compelled us to embark on the Unite Against Rape campaign. Alexandra Goddard, the Steubenville blogger, drew the world's attention to the rape of Jane Doe. People were outraged that a human being could be treated with such disdain and disrespect, and that there were individuals who knew and were complicit with their silence. What most do not know is that this is not a one-time horror story, that this particular scenario is not an anomaly. Renee Davis, our former Vice President of Programs, knew we needed to address the constant barrage of news that must be triggering the emotions of survivors. We had to give them a chance to use their voice, a chance to say, I am a survivor and I stand with Jane Doe. It was easy coming up with the 3 categories for submissions because they were all so obvious. For the survivors, no shame, no blame, and no guilt. Because no one who is raped should ever feel ashamed, should ever be blamed, or should ever have guilt for being violated. The category regarding the crime itself is clear. No excuse, no justification, and no defense, because there can be no excuse, justification, or defense for that crime. And the message to those who stand by and do nothing: no secrets, no silence, and no standing by. To know a crime is being committed or has been committed, and do nothing is abhorrent. And to joke and laugh about it, or take pictures or videos, or blame the victim is reprehensible. When we as an organization need to react or answer to a situation or story in the news, we have the ability to do so very quickly. Within 24 hours, we had put out a call for submissions, and our first meme was placed on the page. The submissions flooded our email, and the survivors spoke. Some for the first time ever in their lives. The women and men who sent in submissions are beautiful and strong and brave and many. There were so many submissions, and it's merely a drop in the ocean. When you have time, please go to our website and take a look at the faces and read their quotes. It's both heartbreaking and uplifting to read them and look at their faces. We are honored and humbled by their participation in this campaign. Giving survivors the chance to speak out is not enough, and this is only the beginning. We must work to change the culture and the consequences in our society that allow rape to reach such epidemic proportions. If not addressed, it will not change. We have to bring respect back into the equation. We have to change the perception that rape is somehow a second-class crime against a second-class citizen. We must teach girls that they deserve respect. We have to work to change the mindset that women and girls are somehow fair game. We have to stop the false justification of they were just having a little fun and it got out of hand, or boys will be boys. No, rapists will be rapists. And to somehow lessen the truth of that assumes the person they assaulted is less than, and they are not. We have to change the circumstances that make women afraid to report rapes. Fear is a powerful tool to keep victims silent. Fear of the rapist who tells them not to report it. Fear of being blamed or shamed, whether by friends or by friends of the rapist. Fear of what family and friends will say. Fear of law enforcement not believing them. And fear of a judicial system that will not bring justice. We must work to erase those fears. We must work to change the law enforcement procedures that, as a normal part of the process, automatically question the integrity of the victim and the validity of the report. We must work with the judicial system that often is more concerned with the futures of young rapists, more than it's concerned for justice for the victim. All of these things contribute to the abysmal rate of rapists who ever pay or pay too little. We must make clear the definition of rape, that at any time the word no is spoken, that anything beyond that point is coercion, force, and is rape. That if a woman does not have the cognitive ability to say no, whether due to drugs or alcohol, that the presumption is not yes, it is always no. Only yes means yes. We must demand that all rape kits be tested. And what other crime is evidence disregarded and sits untested? How many rapists remain free or are not found to be the perpetrators because the expense of testing is greater than the value of justice for the victim? Anger may have been the catalyst, but it is determination to make a change and passion for the cause that will propel us forward. This is only the beginning of an ongoing campaign. It will be a multi-approach campaign, and Karen will tell you more about it when she speaks about how we'll be moving forward. But we must make this change. We cannot allow future women to be violated. I would like to thank all of those who participated in this campaign, the survivors, those that stand with them, and those who contributed to help make the change. Thank you.
Very passionate, and I think that all of us at Unite Women have been profoundly affected by this campaign. I mean, I think we didn't realize when we started exactly how deeply it was going to affect all of us, and I think that that's pretty clear in Pat's speech right now. Well, now I would like to introduce our state director here for Unite Women, Brenda Seward, who has been she's been with us since the very beginning, and she's offering great leadership here in the state. And she very much was responsible for putting this event together tonight, and we're so thankful for that. And I would like to introduce Brenda Seward.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming here this afternoon to help us celebrate this milestone. It's been 1 year since we gathered together at Festival Park on that rainy, chilly, windy day. and listen to members of our state legislature and group organizers and leaders from all over the state talk about the issues that have brought us together in action. Since that day, the scope of our concern has broadened beyond anything that we could have imagined then. From our advocacy for our military service women to the epidemic problem of sexual abuse in the military, to activism and education regarding our voting rights, pay equity, domestic violence, marriage equality, the ERA, and as always, the continued threat to reproductive rights. Just weeks ago, we saw the certification of the targeted regulations against abortion providers here in Virginia. Regulations that serve no purpose other than to restrict access to reproductive choice. In our recent General Assembly session, a voter ID law was passed and signed by the governor that will serve no other purpose than to further inhibit the ability of citizens with limited means or ability to exercise their most basic civil rights. In short, we've tried very hard to abide by the principles that women's issues affect all of us in every way possible. Or as Hillary Clinton aptly put it, women's rights are human rights. As we move forward with our work in Virginia, we will continue to embrace and expand on that principle. We hope that we can count on all of you to help support us in that endeavor. Thank you.
So much, and thank you for all of your hard work on behalf of all of your women. Our next speaker is the president of the Virginia Now. And obviously the National Organization for Women has been extremely instrumental in women's rights since the beginning of women's rights, really. And Diana Skagu is providing wonderful leadership to us, and I would like to thank her for being here and announce her. Thank you so much, Diana.
Hi, it's Diana Skagu, and I'm the president of the Virginia chapter of the National Organization for Women. We were created in 1966, so I'm older than Linda's organization, National Political Caucus. And in 4 years, we'll be 50 years old. And one of your members had a line that I like to quote, and she called us the mothership for all organizations. And a lot of women's organizations, if you don't know it, are spin-offs from now committees. The Older Women's League, I think the National Women's Political Caucus would be one of those too. So there are a number of organizations that are around because our members had committees and actually worked with women individually. We've kind of resolved ourselves into a lobbying group now because it got too big when a million women are coming at you with the same problem to keep helping them. So that's where we are. And last year I was at the Turning Point memorial for the suffragists they're trying to build. And Eleanor Cliff, the reporter, it was introduced to me, and she asked me the question. She looked at me after Virginia's year, and she said, "Are you still alive?" And so most of all, we work on social justice issues, but the big one is the Equal Rights Amendment. That for me has been, since I entered Fredericksburg now, I brought it back to Virginia probably 7-8 years ago, and we have gotten it past the Virginia Senate twice, and we have never gotten it out of the Virginia House. And if you all aren't familiar with it, if you don't remember, the ERA just simply states the equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. And if you have to remember that the only right you have guaranteed in the Constitution is the right to vote. That's it. There's nothing else there. And I have a lot of women say to me that, oh, well, we have all these rights. We don't need the Equal Rights Amendment anymore. That's not true. You might have things like Title IX, Title VII, Lilly Ledbetter, but they can disappear tomorrow. Just a little vote can take them away tomorrow. You need the Equal Rights Amendment to guarantee them. It is a firewall against your rights being taken away. It is umbrella insurance, whatever you want to refer to it. It is going to be the umbrella that protects us, and we need it desperately. Ellie Smeal said last month in a speech that the reason we have Title IX, Title VII, all these laws is because we didn't get the ERA. They didn't want to give it to us. So when you complain about a problem, then they go, oh my God, we better give them a law. So they don't have to have the ERA. So that's how you get these laws, but they can go away tomorrow. So you must get out there and fight for it. It has to be. It's how many years? Now started this in 1966 when it was formed. This was introduced in 1923, and if you don't know, it's Susan B. Anthony's nephew introduced this in the Congress. He was a congressman from the Midwest. He introduced this. So that's part of our history. He fought for it for a long time. The Republicans put it in their platform in 1944. The Dems didn't come around until the 1950s. So they were there to start with, and now they've disappeared. So look at your Republican women friends and say to them, where'd you go to? We need you back again. If you know any Republican women, I don't think they hide in the closets anymore. And Linda talked about the two new fights, and that was the new Carolyn Maloney bill for the Equal Rights Amendment. And it is just the same words, just a different title at the top. That's all it is. And then there's the take off the time limit bill in the Senate and in the House. Tammy Baldwin and Ben Cardin. So we have those efforts, but Virginia now is fighting for the old ERA. So we're fighting for the three-state strategy. We're saying that the old ERA is not dead, it's still viable. And the Supreme Court has said to us that the ERA is still legally held, timely or contemporaneous, viable, fair, and just. And the Virginia Attorney General in 1995 was answering a letter from our dear friend, Delegate Marshall, who asked them if the ERA was dead. And he came back and said, no, it's not dead. So they know it's still alive, but they're trying to spread the word that it is dead. It is not, it is there. And they only killed themselves for the 27th Amendment when they passed it. After 203 years, they passed an amendment that was still out there called the Madison Amendment. And all it did was give them the ability to have a pay raise in 2 consecutive congressional sessions. So you saw what was important to them. And they went to all the legislatures, especially the Republican ones, in the dead of night, and they had this passed. So we expected to be the 27th Amendment, but Madison is. But it killed their argument that we're out of luck. So we are still alive and viable. And I want to say to you that if you don't know, there are 22 states that have an ERA amendment in their constitution. And we have an ERA clause, believe it or not. And our Constitution was written in 1955. And it is Article 1, Section 11. I want you to check it out and bring it up to your legislator. And it's just a partial clause that says the right to be free from any government discrimination upon the basis of religious conviction, race, color, sex, or national origin shall not be abridged. And since I have to ask Virginia this, if you gave this right to Virginia women, why aren't you giving it to women of the United States? We are the holdup on the 15 states. This is what we are. We are a roadblock. But we're supposed to have it for ourselves. But they did exempt something in the Constitution, that was VMI. And you all know that in the 1990s, VMI went down in flames. But with it, they took our dear senator from Northern Virginia, Emily Miller, who backed the legislation to get rid of the VMI exemption. And next year, the alumni took her out. She didn't win again, even though she was in Northern Virginia. So I'm asking you to get back in the fight. This is a matter of respect, and it's a matter of we don't want to be a 1/4 citizen, a half citizen. I don't know about you, but I want to be a whole citizen, 100% with all the rights that say male on them. We want for ourselves. And this is what we need. But this year, I want to say to you that put the fight aside after November is so important. Go out there and work. If Cuccinelli wins, Missouri Cooch, no, we are dead. You might as well go home and sit for 4 years because nothing's going to happen. We've already gone backwards in reproductive rights, gun laws, voting rights. What more is going to hit the table? I know it's going to be there, and it's going to be our butts. So believe me, go do something this week. Get out there, walk the streets, do something, because this is so very important. And then in January, when the legislature comes back, slam them with the ERA. Come and help us, please. Talk to your legislators, because these things we need in this state. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And
don't we have a great variety of speakers? I mean, people are talking on different angles and different varieties of women's rights and different issues, and I just think it's exciting that I think it just shows how much work we have to do, that we've got so many different topics and so many different people, and it's all different. Our next speaker is Dr. Kim Allen. She's the president of the Richmond NAACP, and we are absolutely thrilled to have her here, and thank you so much.
I tend to talk low, so I'm going to hold this up real high so that you can hear me. So good evening, everyone.
Good
Good evening, and thank you so much, Brenda, for inviting me. Thank you, United Women, for having me, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
I bring you greetings on behalf of the Richmond NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In fact, for all people. Right? I stand before you representing hundreds of thousands of Black women and other women of color who have come before me, who stand here with me, and who will come after me. And so I just want to bring them into the room so that you know that I'm not here standing alone, but I represent those who have come before me, who stand with me, and who will come after me. It was fitting that I started the day this morning at the church service for Ebenezer Baptist Church. They celebrated their Women's Day service, the annual Women's Day ceremony. Between 1857 and 1858, this was 8 years before the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, free men and slaves living west of 2nd Street in Richmond and north of Broad Street, they founded Ebenezer. And since its founding, that church has made education for Blacks one of its chief goals. In fact, it opened the first public school for Black children in Richmond in 1866. And in fact, it organized Hartshorn Memorial College for women in 1883. The church organized the College for Women in 1883. Indeed, these are amazing contributions to women's liberation. And today, during its annual Women's Day service, I was reminded that on this day in history, Maggie L. Walker was installed as the head, what they then called the Right-Worthy Grand Secretary of the Independent Order of St. Luke. She went on to later become the first woman to charter a bank in the United States, the first woman to charter a bank. And it was called the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank, and she was the first female bank president in the United States. And that bank was later called the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company, and it's now Premier Bank, and it still stands in Jackson, Richmond. Now, these are astounding accomplishments for the daughter of an enslaved woman who was born only 2 years and 2 months after the end of the Civil War. As a leader, she achieved successes with the vision to make tangible improvements in the way of life for African Americans, and in fact, for women. Disabled by paralysis, she was paralyzed and limited to a wheelchair later in life, Maggie Walker also became an example for people with disabilities. She was an amazing woman, and she's a personal role model for me. And I imagine that Maggie Walker would be saddened to know of the condition of many women today. So for example, the HIV rate among Black women living in some U.S. cities is the same rate as that of some African countries. The prison system unashamedly is warehousing women for petty crimes stemming from poverty and substance abuse. The infant mortality rate among African Americans is 2 times that of whites. African Americans disproportionately suffer from heart disease, diabetes, and all manner of cancers. African American women, men, and children disproportionately live and work in environments that not only are making them sick, but are literally killing them. So you see, for women, particularly Black women, women's issues are family issues and community issues. As heads of our households, leaders in our faith communities, and lead community organizers, we take on the breadth of issues that attempt to keep us subordinate and locked out of opportunity. Voting rights is a women's rights issue. Access to affordable health care is a women's rights issue. A clean, safe environment is a women's rights issue. Immigration is a women's rights issue. An end to mass incarceration and the automatic restoration of rights to all returning citizens from prison is a women's rights issue. And we won't let nobody turn us around. We've come too far from where we started from, so the song says. From where Maggie Walker started from where Sojourner Truth, who boldly proclaimed, "Ain't I a woman?" started from. Women and those who love and support us, we pledge to continue to walk in solidarity, stand and demand in communion and in commitment. And I don't know about you, but we will hold on and fight on for what is fair, and more importantly, for what is just.
We are with you. With you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker gives yet another different perspective on the rights that we're seeking. I think a victory that we had recently was the addition of LGBT rights into the Violence Against Women Act. And I'd like to introduce an LGBT activist and advocate, Robin Dean.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, United Women, for having me. Of course, I too share in the celebration of having watched 1 year ago when I looked on the television and saw this movement reawaken. What a pleasure. I was there in '72 in high school, very active. I lived in Northern Virginia. So politics, anything inside the Beltway, that's a part of my life. Been through all different kinds of protests, from civil rights down to women's rights and down to LGBT rights. It really is a struggle coming in this late in the game and listening to all these different things. And I do have a different perspective, which I'm going to offer. But I wanted to say that I'm going to sound kind of upbeat in my approach, but I really would like to acknowledge that, very much what women experience is what the male to female transgender individual experiences. If you are fortunate enough to be a little bit lighter and maybe pass more readily, imagine being without the surgery and being attracted to a man. Okay? I've had where I work, I've had a harassment claim placed against me essentially on that basis. The gentleman did not realize what my background was till he got out on the floor. I'm here, I'm still employed, and the company I work for is fabulous. I would like to add also, though, that for those that are not as fortunate to be able to attract that attention, they attract the ire of everyone that has an axe to grind against anything LGBT. And it's always been that way. You can run stealth going from female to male. You can run stealth as a lesbian. You can run stealth as a gay man. You have a really tough time running stealth going from male to female. I can tell you, when I sold insurance, I used to say to people, when they say, you know, if you catch a hair, you'll do a little bit more business. I thought I got a spot right down here. Then I'll cut it when it gets there. And then I would just tell them I'm a professional player. The violence issue was part and parcel to my argument with my employer when I made the difference to change the discrimination law or the discrimination policy within the company, and as well the restroom policies. That, I'd like to say, is probably my biggest claim to fame, or at least I consider my personal best. And it's amazing that the way this employer said that they're one of the largest big box retailers in the world in home improvement. They have a lot of orange around. But they've been wonderful. They listened. You know, they didn't get it the first time, but they came back and they got it the second. So there are studies out where the violence, as an insurance agent, I went to get insurance. We're very difficult to insure because either suicide or violence is a huge, huge, huge part of our lives. Okay? Then in surgeries alone, you know, anytime you put somebody in surgery, you're taking them down to close to death. Insurance carriers don't like risk. They don't make money on risk unless they can get a huge amount of money in premium. And usually that's more than a transgender person can afford. Because at the same time the expenses are going up, the enthusiasm for your client base is going down. That affects income. I'm probably making about a fourth of what I made at my peak. That said, I'm happier than I've ever been. And I'm happy to report to you that I'm here today after spending decades undercover on the other side. That would be the male side. I recall a time, now I'll get into this, I recall a time when, as a young parent, I watched my son climb a ladder. And much to a neighbor's surprise, what on earth is a 3-year-old child climbing a ladder to the 2nd floor? But think about that. What do women do? What do we encourage? We're caretakers. We build people up. I remember a time in the men's room at my employer, before I could make the switch, standing in a mirror, and I'm sorry, but anybody that knows me knows I'm used to moving around. So I'm in my box here. I remember standing in the mirror before I had made the official transition, fixing my pony, looking at the little bit of makeup that I chose to put on before I was officially out. Yeah, there were some people that knew. And then would come into the bathroom. Now, men are a little different than women. Men knock the door down. All right, the doors bounce against the wall, and they're 2/3 of the way across, and they look in the mirror and they freeze. They see me. And you have to see this, because I saw it so many times. Visualize in your mind that same aggressive male stepping back. Grabbing the door, and you know, I wanted to believe that they're reading, but I honestly think they're counting the letters. So that experience steps in my mind, but they wouldn't come in until I said, it's okay. It's okay. Now there's a hidden message there. Think about it. They wouldn't come in until I said it was okay. What if I hadn't said it was okay? They'd be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Again, my message, there's a certain amount of power that comes with being able to say, it's okay. So who thought 41 years ago, when I graduated from high school, that I would be standing in front of you today with a message and a direction as important as the one we've come to celebrate in this room. It's really pretty awesome when you think about it. And it's awesome that you've invited me here because I'm really new to the game. You know, you're going to see things about me. You don't notice I haven't done a lot of work with my voice, but I'm out there, so I might as well live with it, go with it. It seems to work. The phone is a lot of fun. Yes, sir. It's ma'am. Thank you. How can I help you? It's ma'am. How can I help you? Did I travel the same road as everyone in here? No. Have I earned my curls? I'd like to think I have. Lord have mercy, it's a long road. And all along the way to get where I am, I virtually had to teach my caregivers how to take care of me. That's pretty sad in a healthcare system like ours to think about it. And I want to say that what you learn in slumber parties, I had to learn on my own. With the caretakers, when I get in the hospital, I was actually in a med psych ward for 10 days. Imagine that. I don't think I sound that off the wall. Is there anybody in here scared right now? I'm in a med psych ward, and I had become anorexic. I was down to 118 pounds, standing heart rate, 39 beats a minute, and I had, not sure how it came to pass, but I had a lesbian psychiatrist who told me that I was delusional. All right? But it didn't register. Didn't register the source at that time. Before I became known as one Republican blogger put it, the governor's hit factor, I had already started my work in activism. I actually began my transition in 2005, and I joined Equality Virginia because it sounded like Equality Virginia had that global perspective for LGBT issues that was what I wanted. It was a professional, pragmatic way of approaching all of those issues. And you would think that I would fit. I'm the T. I have in common with everyone over there this sense of being an outcast. But there was something along the way that was kind of missing. I couldn't put my finger on it, and I had to go back to something that I taught my kids as I was growing up, and that was question everything, make a way. That was kind of a hallmark. You'll find it in my daughter's thesis, because I wanted them always to be open, looking at things and asking why. And then if they didn't like it, change it. Change it. Question everything, make a way. Question everything, challenge the status quo. I had times when I was advocating for Equality Virginia, where we'd be out, and I would have a gay guy try to, I want to use my words here because I actually thought they were pretty good. Consider me, prospect me for relationship consideration. The simple vernacular on that is try to pick me up. And my response, and by the way, I can appreciate the other side of the coin because it's a relatively new experience. But I can remember saying that I'm a heterosexual, male, female, transsexual, and transition. And looking at the gentleman and watching the eyes spin. And you know this look, because it's the look of becoming aware that hits somebody's face. You like boys. And I said, I do. I do. But where I'm going, you don't want me to go. It's not going to be a happy time either. It didn't dawn on me, though. There was a message there as well. They didn't get who I was. It seems like every time I would have a conversation with gays and lesbians, the conversation would focus around intimacy rather than around identity. And thankfully, a rekindled relationship with my daughter pushed into my mind that concept of question everything, make a way. And I got to thinking about what was going on with this. And so we're all around it this year, and we're on this, I've done this speaking engagement for Roland at the Bell Tower, and I even supported a bill that, good Lord, I hadn't even read. How dumb is that? Okay? I looked at the bill the following year and the year after that, and I stopped lobbying for it. I started going out on my own. So really, as an advocate, I'm not really tied to any one particular organization. I'm kind of a freelancer because I so disagree with much of what I read. But I came out of that with the idea that, holy cow, this is wrong. It had gender identity listed as a subset of sexual orientation. Now, I have nothing against sexual orientation as a focus for a group of rights, absolutely nothing whatsoever. But logic dictates to me that it's reversed. Before you can have an orientation, you gotta have an identity. It's that simple, and I was not in favor of the bill, and this is one of the few times in recent years that I was very angry and I was getting ready to push back. But part of my message today, though, is question everything, make awaken. So I paused and thought about this. Is this the best way to go? And I realized that with all the stuff that I put together, the people trying to pick me up, the number of times it took me to get my employer to understand who I was, the fact that a lesbian psychiatrist missed the diagnosis, the fact that I went through 7 or 8 counselors before I finally put my hands up and said, we're getting away from all these peripheral issues that you're trying to run me down, and we're going back to the core. When I put all of that together, I realized I stopped questioning things. And I submit to you as a group of activist women that for many years, it really appears that women had done the same thing. And it took the wake-up call a year ago, and you started questioning everything and realizing it was time to, again, make the wake. Now, the core group of you I know, I've listened to you. You've been at it right along, but you must have been lonely at times. Because it didn't rise above the radar, and I'm a political activist really until I saw you all a year ago, and how happy was I that that was the case. So what I came up with was it's time to, I reviewed how I looked at it. I decided it's time instead of being what my younger brother once coined, and he got real angry when I said this at the bell tower, was being another whiny minority, and I submit to you that I think that white men will probably be the last great minority to have to be dealt with, and look what we're doing to pave the way with them. I said I'm going to seek to understand. I'm going to seek to partner to teach and to work together to resolve. All right, so I reapproached Equality Virginia with a group of us. I can't say that I did this alone. We have an ad hoc group. We're not associated with any specific group. It's just 5 or 6 of us that have come together with the idea of advocating these rights. We're a really small crowd. You try. There are not a whole bunch of transgender people in Rome, and there's more than you would imagine. And in doing this, you know, one of the things that really hit me recently was you watched what happened in Boston, right? God, a horrific event. And then what happens? Is everybody running away? No, everybody's running in. And it so stood out to me that when you looked at Boston on this hand and then Washington on this hand, man, what a problem. What a problem. The Americans are going the way Boston went. How do we change our leadership to reflect who we are? We got to question everything and make a way. I don't think that it's got to stay this way. I think that in time there's some factors that are going to automatically lead to change. One is generational change. All right, things change with generations. We're on our way there. It does pick up here. We're on our way. We're moving in the right direction. But then there's also generationally, we'll have to change. There's no real choice because it's not going to be accepted. But along the way, though, the reason we'll have to change is who are the caretakers? Okay, so I said generationally, it will have to change. Women are generally the caretakers. I used to sell long-term care insurance. Number 1, spouse. Number 2 is who? Eldest daughter. All right? So think about this. What happens, what's the status of the boom generation right now?
Getting up there. We're getting along in it too.
Yeah, we're headed in. I mean, I'm right on the leading edge. I'll be 59 in November. All right, so I'm there with everyone else. This generation, our generation, the greatest generation, is going to crush this country. It's going to crush this country. Our kids, or the generations behind us, are going to head through a caretaking hell. I don't think you could put it any other way. And by the way, we said it was women, right? That's a women's issue. That's a money issue too. What happened to the old male guard? What's happening to them? They're getting older and smaller. This is why we will have to change generation. They're not going to be there. But we still have this issue right now. And by the way, what's a byproduct of them getting older and smaller as a group?
Less vocal,
What?
less vocal, less present,
Less what? I'm sorry.
less power.
Well, that would seem to be the case. So what are they doing? They're reaching, baby. They're reaching for everything they can get. You're seeing voting laws change with some really crazy stuff. In my wildest dreams, I can't imagine North Carolina clearing the Supreme Court. I mean, that's a poll tax, if ever there were a poll tax. All right, but we can't stand by. All right, they are trying to put limits on rights of whatever group they can in whatever way they can. They have the people inside that can make the difference in where the money is going. And I will tell you, I honestly believe that the men are they're undoing themselves, because in time, what they're going to find is they've eroded their base. You got to have people active in the economy to give them what they want, which is all the money. Now, what the hell they're going to do with it, I'm not certain, because you reach a couple million and there are limits. Give credit to Bill Gates and Melinda Gates and a gentleman from the Oracle. There you go. They're returning it. But you know what? Why can't we spread that around right up front? Okay? So, more women now than ever are getting into power. And as a matter of fact, corporations are finding that women make better leaders. My company feels that way. We have a leadership program. They realize that women, what happens in Congress right now? Women collaborate. Doesn't matter the party. Think Boston, everybody coming together, working together, right? Women collaborate, men not so much. Okay? Women make great leaders. And that's why you're seeing more and more. It's your hard efforts that are putting women in the government, but it's also corporations recognizing that A, women are markets, B, women got something going for them in their leadership skills. All right? Women have also been speaking up. They're no longer, we may have thought the wallflower days were over, We may have thought, okay, we're part of this economy, we're out here speaking, and you found out a year ago where that got us. Well, we might have thought that would be a change, but like my early experience in LGBT, I found that I had to question everything they could. So let me just get this. What did we miss? We missed getting the message out. What are we going to do about it? Think about abortion. It's amazing. We got people out there who believe that pro-life includes the asterisk. Okay, let's call them on it. Let's call them on it. If you're pro-life all the way. All right, don't let them have that hook. If you take that away from them, then you may find that we got more people on our side. I'll cut through some of this stuff with where we're going with the future. The seniors are going to be crucial. Caretaking is crucial. But think back to what I said about the men coming into the restrooms. Think back to the power that we have that we don't even realize we have, because they're waiting for us to acknowledge it. Let's use the power, get them in the room. Where we are right now, is watching that child up the ladder, leaning against the house. And that child is now looking at coming back down or maybe falling. We step in when the mistake is going to be a big one. That's what we're doing right now. We let them make the mistakes when they're small ones because they learn from it. But right now, it's going to be a big mistake. I want to thank you all for stepping up. I encourage you to keep the voices loud and long and persist. And I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to join you.
No, the different perspectives are fantastic. We're gonna need to take about 90 seconds, and I'm gonna set up a PowerPoint presentation. We've got Guadalupe Levin who's gonna speak next, so it's gonna take me just a second to load it on the computer, and then I'll announce our Guadalupe Levin with the Highland Support Project. And you can just tell me when you're ready to advance to the next slide. And then immediately following her, we've got a video, kind of a retrospective, very short about the last year of Unite Women. And then I will introduce Karen Teagarden, who is our okay, well then immediately after the video, Karen Teagarden is going to come up and speak and talk about our past, present, and future. So, here's what we say. Okay, all right, great.
Good evening. I think Zacharic Montios. Thank you very much. That's how we say it in Quiche. That's one of the Mayan languages that we speak in the Highlands in Guatemala. I am Guadalupe Ramirez Levens. I am from the Highlands of Guatemala. And I want to thank you, Britta, for inviting me to come and share some of the experience and the work that I do with about women's rights and women's self-esteem in the Highlands in Guatemala. I came to the United States in 1993, and I met my husband. My husband is from Richmond. He was a peace observer during the Civil War in my country, and in that period of time, we meet in the Highlands in Guatemala when some Mayan refugees was coming from Mexico to be back in our country, Guatemala. So one of the things that we do in Guatemala as an organization from our women's rights and women's self-esteem, we basically all main program basically start in the kitchen. And one of the things that we do is in our programs is basically focus is in cleaning cooking stoves. Now, you perhaps gonna say to you, why do you focus on the kitchen? The thing is that for some of you, but for all of you, the suffrage movement don't start. It was available to do it here in the United States with when it was possible to have labor saving devices like dishwashers and washing machines to do the laundry. And so it's the same thing, is basically the same thing is happening in Guatemala these days. The cooking stove basically is a device that a lot of that is put it into the homes of the family that we work with, and it works as a slow cooker. And why are we building stoves? One of the reasons is that usually the families that we work with are they live in a really small houses, like 10 by 20 or 10 by 10 square little rooms, and they cook in there, they sleep in there, they live in those little houses. So a study said that every time that the women cook, it's like smoking 360 cigarettes every time they cook. and they had to cook with, 3 meals. And many times they have the baby in the back. And so then not only the women are inhaling all the smoke, and also the baby also is getting sick all the time. So I was lucky to born in a house where my grandfather was amazing, and he learned for trade doing these cooking skills. My mother was, as a wedding gift, she received a cooking stoves. And so we are 5 sisters. I am the oldest, and all of us are alive. We have the possibilities. My parents and my mother was available to have time to write and read. He only went to have a 4th grade education, but he was educated enough to understand and at least help us with the homework in elementary school. So, and everything was done because we have this device in the house, the cooking stuff. Going back, and why we focus on the cooking stoves is because thinking back, in one little house where we show up one day, I saw basically a little, it was a little boy sleeping on the floor when an open pit fire next to him. And we was visiting this family, these women, and we was doing, visiting different houses in order to invite the women actually to vote. And in that time, I saw these women that they don't have the time to go and assist our meetings because they have a lot of things to do in the house and they have to take care of sick children. And so from that point, I decided to, we decided as an organization to, the best way to help the women in Guatemala is by improving the kitchen. And by improving the kitchen, not only they have a really healthy family, but also the women can find time to participate in different meetings, like at the meetings that we are right now over here. We do a lot of education about, the right to vote, women's rights, but many times we have to just to talk to them when we don't have they don't have the possibilities to actually read the law or read the Constitution in which ones are their rights. So we have to sit down with them and tell them, one by one on a small group dynamics in order to them to learn and to learn what is the rights. So I am doing the same work that you guys doing over here. Is in Guatemala. But my hope right now, and I'm seeing maybe in the near future, seeing a group of women from Guatemala that can discuss the laws and question or government. What are they doing about women's rights? Because there are things over there, but there are also they don't understand. And this is the thing that we are struggling. We are struggling. I guess the government or the governments are in the interest in not to have an educated population, because we question if we are. It's because if we know what's going on, if we know how to write and read, we read and then we question. And this is the thing that the things that we are working in Guatemala about, educating the women and to be self-efficient and be active participants in the society. And poverty is not the situation of being lazy. It is the situation of how to take advantage of opportunities. And this is what we are. This is what I'm doing in Guatemala. Thank you very much for inviting me. Where are
Amen, sister.
I don't even know what to say. I have to thank everybody. I guess this is the camera where I'm speaking to everybody, right? Not
Yes.
just the people in this room, but everyone out there who has ever been a part of this organization from the day one. Thank you for just an amazing year. We started thinking that we were going to take to the streets and create these rallies and we'd be done.
And within the first week, we knew we had something more than that. But before I really kind of get into that, I want to thank the amazing speakers that we had today. Brenda, thank you and your team so much for inviting. I learned so much today myself. So I hope everyone not only learned from all of our speakers, but engages with them. We're here after the event, just kind of hanging out and talking to each other because we had a chance to do that. So I hope that we will do that. I thank all the people in this room who were here a year ago. I was in Michigan. They threatened snow. We didn't get the snow, but it was that cold and very windy. So I know what you went through with the weather. We are just so delighted that the original core Virginia team. Oh my gosh. Is this better? Sorry. That the original core Virginia team with Brenda, Donna, Linda, Virginia, and Aaron are all still involved with us in a variety of ways. Obviously, I'm sorry, and Victoria, did I not? I thought I said Victoria. Sorry, and Victoria. Victoria has graciously stepped up to be our state director from Maryland. Donna and Linda Reynolds are both regional directors now. So it still just is such a great team, and all of the other people here who are involved with that. And I have to throw out a very special thank you, because none of this would have started if it weren't for one other person on that fateful night of February, well, about 1 in the morning, Desiree Jordan in New York. Desi and I had a wonderful political relationship that started with working on the Obama campaign. And it just kind of grew from that. And we were on the phone with each other all the time, venting when something was happening. And that panel of men was the straw that broke the camel's back for us. And we were saying, what in the world was it going to take? And before we hung up, Desi said, we should just build it and they'll come. And so we hang up and we think, how many times have we said things like that and you just go on with your life? I look down at the computer screen and I see create a group on Facebook. My 21-year-old daughter still cannot believe that I have done this. Because she, like most of you, I asked her, like, Ruby, how do I do this? And I thought, okay, well, even if it's me and Desi and one other person, we're going to take to the streets. And so I clicked that, and the next day we had over 500 people who had asked to join. Thank you. And within a week, I think we were at 12,000 people. And by the time we had our rallies in April, we were over 20,000 people. And it just was absolute, just on our Facebook groups. So I thank them. I want to shout out right now to every single state director now and who's ever been a part of our organization, our regional directors who are just doing an amazing job. Shannon is over our PR and outreach, and we've got a great team there that we're building. Crystal Ransom, who some of you may know, heads up our research department, and I have to tell you, it's basically a behind-the-scenes work, but oh my goodness, what they're putting together and what we're going to have to work with going forward is just going to be fantastic. And of course, our Twitter team, I have to share one Twitter story. Our Twitter team, can I say kicks ass? Yeah, we're on the internet, right? They do. When VAWA was coming back for a vote, when we were all in DC, so this was just recently, and we had a morning where we didn't have to go to any meetings. And so we were literally in our jammies, sitting on the floor, watching C-SPAN, the House votes, and our organization, along with many other organizations, had created a Twitter bomb campaign, and we were tweeting individual legislators as they were speaking on the floor, either calling them out for their lies or cheering them on for a great speech, and then targeting those legislators who we thought might vote for the House version of the vote, which did exclude many women. And this is the first time it's happened to us, but we got individual tweets back from some of these legislators. They had coordinated a graphic and said, stop tweeting me, I'm voting for the Senate version. Sandy, thank you so much for all the work that you do with that amazing Twitter team. Our graphics department, led by Sarah Mural, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but our graphics have really been elevated over the last few months. And that has everything to do with Sarah and the team that she has brought on. So yes, it's been quite a year, as you can see here. I mean, obviously the rallies were amazing, and it was to me what was the goal, but then became really the beginning of our work. And since then, our big goal after that was the election. And so we had a very specific goal, and you know, let's face it, we, along with so many other women in this country, really made an impact on that election. They should all we launched with a couple of organizations, the We Are Good Women campaign, and that was really, in some ways, similar to me, the same feel that we have now with our Unite Against Rape, where many of us are demonized for one choice we made in our life, or some occurrence that's happened in our life. If you've had an abortion, you're demonized. If you're single and take birth control now, you're demonized. If you're on food stamps, you're demonized. So the whole idea behind that campaign was truly to bring women into the fold. We put a call out, and we had many, many submissions, where then we put the videos together where their photographs were shown, and underneath where they said, you know, I had an abortion, it said, I'm a good woman. I cannot even tell you how many women said, seeing that photograph of themselves with those words was more powerful than 10 years of therapy. Because they never thought of themselves in that way. So moving forward, I don't know about you. I am as angry as I was on February 19th. Anybody else less angry? I mean, can you believe what has taken place in just a little over a year? So we absolutely are continuing our work. As Pat said, with the Unite Against Rape campaign, we have hundreds more of these graphics that we are going to, every day we're going to be posting them. And if a really great thing for you to do, if you don't want to be sharing them every single time, is we update the album on the Facebook page every day. So no matter when you go there, if you want to share the album, which is very powerful, that would be great. But we are going to, we're going to start this on Tuesday. We're developing now graphics with statistics, because people need to know what is, why we need to fight this fight. Down the road, we're in the process of creating, I'm just going to say what it is, and I'll let your imagination go, but I don't think I have to explain it, a wall of shame. Our hope is, if we can get the funding, is to create a series of PSAs. You may have noticed that we've had some celebrities involved in the campaign. Our hope is that we can create some PSAs. And then in the fall, we're going to take the campaign to college campuses and to high school campuses. So this is going to be a long-term campaign, and very, very, a lot of levels, a lot of layers. We mentioned, the ERA is very important, and we're going to continue our work there, especially making people aware and knowing that, where we are with the vote on that. We're probably going to have to wait till after the 2014 election to really make an impact. But if we wait till then to build awareness and to start working on it, it'll be too late. We also have, and we're in the process of developing it, but our focus, another big focus, is really getting ready for the November 14 election. When after the rallies, when we have the election coming up, we have very little time to really ramp up and get ready to think about things. We have the benefit of time now. So so many people want instant gratification. They want to go out and have a rally and have something happen the next day. I think you've heard a common theme from a lot of people in this room, that this is a long process. Yes, there are aspects where we can get immediate gratification, but every single thing we do is a step toward the right direction. And it's a long process, and we have to keep the excitement up on that. So we're going to be putting together a list of all of the federal and state level legislators that are going to be running for office. And much like we did the last time, we will be doing a version of in their own words, highlighting with their votes on all the legislation and making people aware of what they're doing. We also want to build a campaign that really takes it and makes people aware of the bigger picture. Because it's not just what's happening in Virginia. It's not just what's happening with reproductive rights. It's not just what's happening with pay equality. This is a very concerted, big picture problem. If you don't know about ALEC, you should learn. If you don't know, yeah. If all you know is this name, the Koch brothers, you should find out what they fund. If you don't know what the Heritage Foundation is, or if you just know the name but you don't understand what they do, you should find out. And if I had more time, I would go into all of this. But this has been in the works for a very long time. So we really do need to make people understand that all of these laws that are traveling around to the states, and they all seem so familiar and similar, guess what? It's because they are. There's a template. And guess what? They're now working with our U.S. House of Representatives in D.C. Do you know that there is a plan to bring personhood on the federal level by the House of Representatives?
Do you know whose district we're sitting in?
And we are,
For my sins, I live in the 7th district in Virginia.
yes, he is definitely on the top of our target list. There are a few others, but he's definitely right there. And many people, many of the speakers mentioned this, and Linda and I have talked about this a lot. We need to work together. We're new to this game. We're learning, how we can approach other organizations, and in some states we've done an amazing job, and Virginia is testament to that, especially with NOW and some of the other organizations. But it's really hard. Sometimes we get going with something, and as Linda mentioned, everybody has their little silos, and everybody can do their own work, but we really do need to come together and have a louder voice together. And there is the National Women's Political Caucus that brings organizations together. There's NICWO, the National Coalition of Women's Organizations, that bring organizations together. They have various task forces. We're working with NICWO on the ERA. So, we really, that is something that is a very important goal for us for this next coming year. So what can you do? Well, I hope, as I think Brenda mentioned, I hope that you stay involved with the Virginia team here, and for those people in other states, that you stay involved with your state group. We can certainly use more people in our research group. They are more behind the scenes, but you can do other things and still help out with research. Certainly get involved in our Twitter team. If nothing else, just follow us on Twitter and retweet everything we tweet. If you're part of another organization, just know we're here. We want to work with you. Most organizations either have an issue we're involved with, or because we're multiple issues, it's very easy to work with a variety of organizations. And I'm just going to close, because as much as this video and talks about, or demonstrates just what an amazing year it's been, I think it would be remiss for me to say that everything went smoothly. We learned a lot, and we've had our ups and downs, and much like you, Robin, I have to read these words. In the arc of history, all social movements have been beset by turmoil. All of them. Even the ones that we don't even understand that happened, we only see the good. If you really do your homework and read the history of any movement or any organization, they've all dealt with it. The agents of change which endure are those that remain resolute, focused, forward-looking, and undeterred. And we are those agents. Thank you so much. chance to really talk because we've all been so busy. So anyone who would like to just stay with us and join us for more drink, more food, whatever, we very much would welcome you to join us. And I just want to say one more thing. And this is just one of the many, many things that this woman has done for this organization. She's still on the board, but as many of you know, Renee Davis has resigned her position with us as our Executive Vice President of Programs. She created, she created the video you just saw. She created many of the videos that you saw over the year. She has been an incredible part of this organization. I have to say that as much as I didn't want her to leave, what she is pursuing will just make her such a more important part of what we're all trying to accomplish. She's going back to school. She's got a couple more classes to finish and then going on to grad school. But she remains on our board and still involved. And we thank her for everything that she's done. And it was hard sitting through that video knowing what she put into it in the last couple of weeks. But thank you. I agree. Most of us have had interactions with Renee, and I agree. I don't know. I'll do that with you afterwards. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy. Thank you for coming.